Here's a question for you. Who does the media work for? And when I say the media, I mean corporate media. Who do they work for? Why do they exist? What do they view as their job? Well, every now and then you get a moment where the mask slips and it becomes a little too obvious who they work for, what their goal is, etc. So on CNN, they did this segment. They're talking about March Madness, and look at the way they decide to frame the conversation. The key issue that is core to this discussion. This says a lot, and they don't even realize it.
We love watching the NCAA for a variety of reasons, but it costs employers in lost productivity, right? We're just so distracted.
We're very distracted during this time of year, Fred. All of the time filling out our brackets, doing the research just to see the brackets get busted, right into the tournament, and then watching the games during work hours. It's costing employers and lost productivity. Lost productivity up to $17.3 billion this year. That's up $1 billion from a year ago. And that's because we have more Americans working than they did a year ago. Wages are also up. So that's increasing lost productivity, and we're spending more time researching our brackets.
Oh my goodness, that's big money when you put it that way.
17 billion in quote unquote lost productivity that hurts the employers. That's the way they framed it. That's the way they talked about it. In other words, the default perspective is like, I don't get it. Why aren't you busting your ass endlessly for your boss? Why? Like, that's the default position. That's what you should be doing. That's the way it should work. But the fact that this is sort of like a party month in a sense, because there's March Madness and people pay a lot of attention to it, etc., they view that as like, oh my God, that's a distraction from the real deal, from the way it should be, from the way things are supposed to be. From you getting to the salt mine and coddling your boss's ball sack on a regular basis. What are you doing? 17 point whatever billion dollars in lost productivity, bro. Well, how can you say it's lost? It wasn't there. It was never going to be there. March Madness has been there for quite a while. This is the way that it works. How can you view it from that perspective? That's injecting bias into the story. Why can't I say, well, every other month of the year, people are, there's $17.3 billion too much for employers, that people are working too hard, dedicating too much time to their job and not enough time to leisure. Why can't I talk about it in that way? Because that would be a fundamentally more rational approach to how we look at work in this country, right? If you have things every month that are interesting, entertaining, bring about joy and happiness outside of the workplace, like, why should the default be that you're just like slavishly devoted to your job and your boss and the company? They frame it as a lost productivity. So if it wasn't for this thing, this is what you would be doing. Shut up and get to work. And it's like, no, I don't. No. They talk about it from the perspective of the corporation, from the perspective of the business, the employer, the money that is supposed to be made through your productivity. I mean, I think it literally said on the screen, like, lost productivity for employers or something like that. And then, you realize, to go back to the original question, like, who's the audience here? You know who the audience is. It's the top 1%. It's the capitalists. It's like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if you go watch one of the Sunday shows, sometimes there will be a commercial for a defense contractor. And it's like, well, why are they doing that? They're doing that because they're buying influence. The shows are much less likely to do a deep dive, do some investigative reporting, do an expose on some inappropriate stuff with the military-industrial complex if they're funding the shows. By the same topic, I'm sure you go look at who gives the most ad money to CNN. You got some of the biggest corporations in the country. Some of the wealthiest sectors giving money to CNN, and then this is what they get. They frame it all as like, isn't this crazy, man? lost productivity. I mean, these guys could be mindlessly being slavishly devoted to their boss and their job, but they're not. They're not doing that. They're enjoying themselves. They're actually like enjoying their lives and following something that's fun and interesting and entertaining. And I don't know, man. I don't like it. Thankfully, it's only 1 month of the year. Every month should have something like March Madness, you know? I just want to reorient our approach to work in this country. And by the way, you can do it in a way where it really doesn't impact productivity in a negative sense at all. Because we've seen the studies on 4-day work week, for example. We know that productivity either stays the same or in some cases goes up if you work 4 days a week. Fewer number of hours. I don't know why it shouldn't be the case. I don't know why that shouldn't be the case nationally. We should have a 4-day work week. We should have paid vacation time by law. We should have paid maternity leave by law. We should have paid sick leave. I mean, you would actually create a healthier country. You have people who have less anxiety, less depression, more fulfillment, more time to, try out other hobbies and skills, more time for family and friends. Like, we really need to reorient the way we think about this stuff. And, but CNN ain't going to help with that process. Because their perspective is like, ooh, look at all the lost productivity. You belong at your job. Get back into the salt mines, please. That's their perspective. And it's almost like a finger wagging like, hey, tut-tut. This is getting a little wacky here. $1 billion more of productivity lost. Unacceptable. Maybe next year we'll have to get a little more strict with our rules around March Madness. Make you come in overtime or something. Like, that's the sense you get from watching this. I can't imagine, because I do a show, right? Like, I do a show. I can't imagine when you're going through your prep for the show and you're setting up the stories in the order you do it in. How the hell did that make the show? Of all the problems in the world, of all the things going on, and you took even a minute, whatever the clip was, to make this point? Oh, man. Jesus Christ. Jesus. It's sickening. So anyway, this is why alternative media is so much better. Alternative media has problems. New media has problems. It's true. Independent media does. A lot of people are audience captured. Fair enough, right? They're real problems, but the problems are fewer and not as severe as what you just saw right here. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.